The Indonesian government has ordered security forces to shoot demonstrators on sight, following the worst rioting in the capital Jakarta for more than 20 years. The military commander, Major General Sutioso, said anyone who caused fresh disturbances would be shot on the spot. BBC Jakarta correspondent says it's the strongest warning so far and a clear sign that the authorities intend to prevent any recurrence of the violence.
Indonesia is not at war with any of its neighbouring states. It's at war with its own civilian population, and it's at war, if you like, with the countries that it's annexed. So it's likely that it's going to be using its weapons against those people.
Yesterday's Observer had recent photographs of East Timorese dead and tortured in it. Some photographs that were given to the Observer were too gruesome to publish, including Indonesian soldier delivering a lethal injection to the neck of an East Timorese dissident.
Indonesia has invaded it 20 years ago and has been there ever since, even though 10 UN resolutions have asked it to pull out. And Britain carries on, selling weapons to this regime and aiding and abetting what I believe is genocide in East Timor.
In February '94, I watched the documentary produced by John Pilger, Death of a Nation, and that had a very large impact on me. It had a lot of footage from East Timor and interviews with Timorese people, and I think I was really shocked to hear about the number of people that had been killed in East Timor, that it was about a third of the population that had been killed, and that's similar to what happened in Cambodia under Pol Pot, and yet, people haven't heard about it, and I just found that so shocking.
When the Indonesians landed here, they began an operation that has been compared in its savagery with Pol Pot's takeover of Cambodia. Hundreds of people were gunned down in the streets, in schools, in shops, in their homes, in the hospital. Live grenades were thrown into houses. Women and girls were raped in front of their families. The Indonesian troops had been told that the East Timorese were communists and primitives who threatened the very existence of Indonesia itself. The strategy was clearly to terrorize an entire nation.
Pedro Gomez.
Presente.
Domingos Pereira.
Presente.
Adrianas Pereira.
Presente.
Manuel da Silva.
Presente.
Marcal da Silva.
Presente.
Manuel Sombang.
Presente.
Augusto Correa.
Presente.
Jimmy Carlos Tillman.
Presente.
Adolfo de Araujo.
Presente.
Manuel Amaral.
Presente.
Andrea Needham.
Presente.
Angie Zelter.
Presente.
Joanna Wilson.
Presente.
Lotta Kronlid.
Presente.
We, the undersigned, indict British Aerospace and the British government that on the 10th day of June 1993 they conspired to breach the Genocide Act and the Offences Against the Person Act by agreeing to the sale of 24 Hawk attack aircraft to Indonesia, in the knowledge that the Hawks will be used by the Indonesian military to commit murder and to further the campaign of genocide against the people of East Timor.
Practically alone among frontline trainers, the Hawk has the ability to go operational and pack a healthy wallop. That means it can do the job that might require additional, more expensive airplanes. The Hawk can also be a frontline airplane, especially with the help of forward-looking infrared radar and night vision goggles for the pilot. Add to that a laser rangefinder for weapons delivery, radar warning, and flare and chaff dispensers for self-defense. And you have a frontline airplane, not just a trainer.
The point of selling Hawk aircraft to Indonesia is to give jobs to people in this country. And there is no doubt in my mind that there is nothing that a Hawk aircraft can do to suppress the people in East Timor. It is not an aircraft that is suitable for that purpose, and we have guarantees from the Indonesians that they would not be used for internal suppression.
My own family, relatives were killed by Western weapons, so they cannot tell me that Western aircraft, Hawk aircraft sold to Indonesia are not used in East Timor.
Dear Mr. Evans, as per telephone message, I would like to invite you to the peace camp to discuss your views on the sale of Hawk aircraft to Indonesia and our concerns as to the consequences of such a sale. We are here until Friday, and you will be most welcome at whatever time you are free to come. Meanwhile, we've also asked at the main gate for permission to talk to the management and the workers and to have a constructive discussion. I'd be grateful if you'd leave a message for us tomorrow, Wednesday morning, as to whom we can see to arrange this. Thanking you, Angie, on behalf of the peace camp. We're asking management for a proper talk about the issues surrounding the Hawk deal. That's what we've got to do. Should I come through, please?
No.
Please ask on our behalf.
I believe there are things I can do about it, which is to oppose the sale of these Hawk jets in a number of ways. And if at the end of the day that doesn't actually stop the Hawks going, then I believe there is one more thing I can do, which is to myself go and personally attempt to disarm one or more of these Hawk planes.
Something else I was actually going to ask people was about my parents, because I don't know, I mean, we know we've said it's okay to tell people close to us. I just want to give them an idea that I might be away for quite a while.
Tell them all the important things, that you might be away for a long time in Her Majesty's dwelling, and that you're doing a direct action of some kind, and it's about the arms trade, etc. And you don't really need to have the specific words and places. If between now and when those Hawks are ready to be delivered, nothing's worked, then at that final moment I will be prepared to disarm them.
The only thing I can do to stop this deal is to actually disarm these planes myself.
I would want to transform that plane into something positive and creative that could be put to good use.
I intend to disarm the Hawk warplanes that are going to Indonesia, and I'm going to hammer on them with this hammer, and I hope that that will inspire other people to do further non-violent direct action against the Hawk deal so that we can stop it together.
We just assumed that we would be caught almost immediately. I mean, it was inconceivable to us that, you know, we could get through all this British aerospace security and nobody would notice that we were there. And so we felt, you know, we need to go for it immediately. There's no time to be hanging around.
Yes, I've got a crane to hang on the fence when I cut in to get in. It's a piece crane. I've got a hammer to hammer the aircraft. I've got my police statement, which is done by video, which is probably the first time that that's been done as a police statement, with the 4 of us on. I've got a booklet which explains the issues behind the Ploughshares action and what Indonesia's up to in East Timor. And I've got a banner which says "Stop Genocide in East Timor." Oh, and I've got a visiting card, which I shall leave in the plane.
Whoa, Angie. I'm sorry you can't.
Can't?
No.
Why?
Because you're under arrest. Because you're under arrest.
Okay, can I give you these hammers? Thank you very much. Good luck.
Do you want to leave your case or anything, or are you bringing that with
no,
you?
I'm alright. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
We'll go along now then, shall we? To the police station.
Oh, you weren't very good, you know, when you
You don't think so?
anyway.
I wasn't disguised, you know, that's all.
How do you feel about that? You're disappointed not to get all the way?
Yeah, I think it's a shame, but there's other people going to carry on the campaign, and you know, no one can do everything themselves, so it's up to everybody else now to make sure those hawks don't go and kill people in East Timor.
Can we go now, please?
It looks like you might have to do this again, eh?
Thank you.
Well, hopefully they have to keep doing it until they join in and uphold the law.
Dear women, is it not just incredibly good that we actually got in and disarmed the apple green sweet death machine?
Sometimes I forget there was an action in between thinking about prison and being in prison, but it did happen. I miss you, my sisters, my movement, my co-hopers and resistors. When my sister was here, it came home to me that there is an end to it. I will be out one day. And I felt like laughing into the face of prison and British airspace and whoever else wants me in here.
He went a bit through Angie's radio interview, looked briefly at the amount of damage and said it was still debatable, but as of today the costs stand at £1,518,416.
2 feet.
There wasn't anybody else around at the time. In fact, British aerospace security was so inept that didn't get to them for 2 hours, I understand.
What can't be disputed at all, if anyone had been in the court to listen to the women putting their case and defending themselves and being cross-examined, is the composure and the sincerity that they put into it, which can only be reckoned by knowing that they are prepared to do this and be apart away from their families for such a long time if need be. And I don't think anybody can ask of more commitment than that.
Thank God for God. Thank God for Jesus Christ who put love into a confused world. And we thank God for 4 women who gave the gift of their freedom to pour love and compassion instead of crime and genocide.
The bishops here in Liverpool, and the Catholic bishops, but the church leaders of Merseyside too, have responded to the people's interest, and they've written to the government this week telling them that they deplore the fact that Britain is selling Hawk jets to Indonesia while Indonesia is oppressing the people of East Timor this way. They've also addressed the issues of jobs here in Britain, for selling arms here in Britain is a way in which local people, especially in Preston, and we have a lot of sympathy with the people in Preston, look after their families and pay their mortgages. And the bishops have said that people must be ill at ease with this situation, must continue to work out the implications, and we must look for alternative economic ways of supporting ourselves than the oppression and the killing of other people.
I'm not a Christian myself, and many other people who have done Ploughshares actions aren't Christians, are any sort of spiritual, political or any other sort of background. So it's more taking this beautiful vision seriously and drawing inspiration from it.
Ploughshares draws its inspiration from the book of Micah and Isaiah, a prophecy to beat swords into ploughshares and study war no more. This was embraced by a movement that really came out of the non-violent resistance to the Vietnam War, a faith-based movement known in the 60s as the Catholic Left. But its main sources of inspiration would probably be the Catholic worker movement. It's been a pacifist movement since the 1930s in the United States, and also the priests Father Daniel and Philip Berrigan, who began the draft board raids at Catonsville in 1968 against the Vietnam War.
Flashback, May 1968. American young men were dying by the thousands in Vietnam. 9 little-known individuals raided a Baltimore Selective Service office. Present, the brothers Berrigan.
We make our prayer in the name of that God whose name is peace and decency and unity and love.
They burned hundreds of draft records with homemade napalm. And their action was deemed so radical at the time that this footage was not broadcast by the station that filmed it. It was later seized by the FBI. Phil and Dan Berrigan and the rest of the Catonsville 9, as they were called, were arrested.
In 1980, 8 people reflected on the scriptures in relationship to the preparation for nuclear war, and in September of 80 went into General Electric King of Prussia plant in Pennsylvania and disarmed nose cones for nuclear missiles. This was the first Ploughshares action. Since then, there's been something like over 50 of these actions, mostly in the United States, but also in Europe and Sweden and Germany and Holland and Britain, and also in Australia.
One by one we come to stop you. One by one we're led away. In our cells we sit and wonder, did we buy another day? Delay the weapons of the final war.
Attention all personnel on site. Please exit the site immediately with your hands up. Drop all personal articles except identification and exit the site, hands up.
Society says that people who do this kind of thing are crazy, and so you have to take time to explain it. You have to give people a chance to understand why you're doing this work, and so by remaining there, by owning up to it, by communicating your message, you can make a lot more people understand why you're doing it. And people respond to it. People say when they hear about it, yes, of course, that's a good thing to do, that makes sense. But if you just go into a factory and do some sabotage and disappear, it's hard for people to understand. You have to, the message that's communicated is kind of lost.
I don't expect an outright acquittal. I don't expect a 10-2 or whatever acquittal. I could envisage a hung jury where at least 3 of the jury are convinced that they didn't commit a crime, or they're not convinced that they did commit a crime. In some ways that would be quite a difficult result, because it means we'd have to go through the trial all over again, and the danger would be trying to duplicate the experience of the last week, which is impossible really. It's been a very fresh and new experience, and if there were a second trial, I think that'd be quite a lot of hard work for everyone involved.
They've got to go back out and they've got to reach a majority decision of 10-2 or 11-1, you know, 11-1. It's got to be a majority.
Right, okay.
What's happened?
Wow, excellent. So it's divided.
So it's divided.
Those were probably the most difficult moments during the trial, yes. The jury were out for about 4 hours trying to reach a unanimous verdict. And over that time, it seemed a very long time, and we felt that we'd presented the case as well as we could, and that there'd been a lot of good evidence. So we were hopeful, but also it seemed it would be such an amazing thing for the jury to find us not guilty that we hardly dared to believe it.
I suppose I tend to be a bit of a pessimist, and when the foreman stood up, I was just thinking, well, I prepared myself for several years in jail, and here it comes, and that's okay, because what we did was right. But then when he said not guilty, and there was this huge gasp around the courtroom, and he had 7 different verdicts to read out, because there was 4 criminal damage charges and 3 conspiracy charges, and everyone, I mean, we didn't dare breathe until he'd actually read out the last one, and then the whole court erupted, and the judge didn't even try to shut people up.
I'm a very law-abiding person myself, so I find it difficult to contemplate taking hammers to a plane, but they have convinced me, really, during the course of this trial, by hearing all the evidence, that what they did was absolutely justified. And I really think that something should be done about this, that we should stop exporting arms, not just these planes, but arms to Indonesia.
Up the British Aerospace injunction, which has just been served on the 4 women who've just been found not guilty of criminal damage and conspiracy to cause criminal damage, and we're going to post it back to them.
I'm still in shock, actually. I can't quite get used to being, you know, sitting here outside in the sunshine, and that we did it. That, you know, there was justice. I mean, justice, I think, is not that often done in British courts, and on this occasion it was, and it's tremendous.
It was a day for justice and a day for East Timor.
If government said what they meant, if Kissinger hadn't kissed the ass of genocide, if Thatcher hadn't thatched the house of death, if elephants didn't bend over backwards to toast the rape of a nation, Timor may not need its armor. Cry freedom, cry freedom, cry freedom. A land of crosses with a sea of blood. Fence of legs marched across the country, shot down by the army. Timor, put on your armor. Timor, put on your armor. Cry freedom, cry freedom, cry freedom. When lives become money, when death becomes numbers, when the oil spills from the soils of poverty into the mouths of hypocrisy, you silly young thing, economies must be run. There is nothing to be done. Is there nothing to be done? No. Cry freedom.